the kind of work that I do because I want people to have that access, and I want people to stand on equal footing in the courtroom. And as a judge in my courtroom, everyone would come in and play by the same rules and stand on equal footing. That's the kind of trial lawyer I was. That is the kind of judge I would be.
Attorney Lanford, keep the microphone there for a sec. Just to follow up on that a little bit, you're a trial lawyer. And trial lawyers take quite a hit in our society a lot of times.
Yes.
Why did you choose to go into trial law, particularly of all the choices you could have gone into?
Well, I was drawn to the personal injury practice because of my upbringing, because I wanted to help people in the system who did not have access. I had seen one too many times. A good example is when I was growing up, my house was foreclosed on. My parents, because my parents were uneducated, unsophisticated, signed a loan with a company with a very high interest rate, and they could not make the payments. And so I wanted to help people who maybe didn't have a $100,000 retainer to pay a lawyer.
Let's follow up on that. The next question that the folks from SPARC have developed is, and it goes very much into this area, please describe your most challenging experiences interacting with people who are different from you, socially, economically, and politically.
Well, it's interesting when I first read that question because given my background, I read it and thought probably the most challenging experiences I had were when I was a kid, living in poverty and dealing with people of different economic classes. But because of those experiences, I have a lot of friends who span many different economic classes. And I do not find my relationships with them challenging. In my mind, economic status is a surface issue. It does not go to people's character. In my practice, I've represented hundreds of clients across many different races, different religions, different economic classes. I've sat in the homes of people, their homes from mansions to trailers in the middle of a field, from affluent neighborhoods to struggling neighborhoods. And I have met with those people and I have represented those people and given each of them equal and good representation. When I thought about a challenging situation, actually what came to mind most recently was I was basically raised by a couple of teachers growing up. And one of them I still keep in contact with and have for many years. I call her every year on her birthday and visit her when I go up north. And we had a debate about politics, which was strange because I always saw her as a mother versus someone to talk to about politics. And I was surprised that we had differing views on some subjects. And what it taught me from those conversations, there were conversations over a period of time, over several, and a few Facebooks, believe it or not. I love it that I can talk to my teachers through Facebooks from high school. But what it taught me was that it's okay for people to have different views on a wide range of subjects, and it does not mean that relationships have to end because you have disagreements. And we're still close, we have been close, and we still talk every year on her birthday.
Thank you. Judge St. John, same question. Challenges with people and folks that are different.
As a mother of 3 young children, I am constantly confronted with trying to negotiate with them and their temperaments. And my answer about what's affected me or challenged me most is sort of similar. As a lawyer at the Children's Law Center, I represented a lot of preteens and teenagers. I was really committed to trying to get positive outcomes for them. But sometimes, and it was sometimes incredibly challenging to move forward when they made bad choices. And their making bad choices were sort of part of what happened. We know that adolescent brains are not as developed as much as adult brains. And that development, not even delay, but just reality, is compounded when children have suffered trauma and instability that affects their psychology, affects their way of relating with others, and affects their ability to bond with others. So one of the typical examples would be that we'd work really hard to get a good educational or family placement for these kids. And then they'd have some disruptive or outburst, and they'd end up, the placement would fall apart. So I was working hard to get positive outcomes, to get stability for these kids that so desperately needed it, but sometimes it didn't work out. We had to move forward and try to come up with another positive outcome, another good solution. Now, my understanding of working with adolescents and teenagers has proved invaluable on the bench. Many of the defendants who come before me are barely older, they're young adults, they're barely older than those kids I've represented in the abuse and neglect system, and many of them have been products of the abuse and neglect system as well. So my understanding of working with these kids and understanding what they're going for has made me a strong proponent of some of the things I was discussing earlier. Diversion programs to keep people out of the system. Expungement, which can get people who succeed on probation from having a criminal record. And working with community partners, trying to come up with mentoring programs and other things to give people support to keep them out of the system. My philosophy really was summed up by Bill Clinton at Ed Koch's funeral. Bill Clinton quoted Ed Koch as saying, we need to give kids reasons to say yes, or things to say yes to, not just things to say no to. That's my approach as well.
Thank you, Judge St. John. And so now you two have both been such, genuinely impressive